you're sad now because this is over. Oh, them years, Dutch. For this snake.
Oh, be quiet, cowpoke. Be quiet. You live in the clouds.
No, you be quiet, Mr. Bell, and put down your gun.
There's Pinkertons coming, fast!
Now! Who amongst you is with me?
Rockstar Games' Red Dead Redemption 2 is easily one of the best open worlds of the last generation. This sprawling tale about gun-toting cowboys trying to find a living in a rapidly changing America might just be Rockstar's best work to date. Which is saying something considering that this is the studio behind some of the best and most influential games of all time. Red Dead Redemption 2 excellently builds upon the foundations of the original, and in turn delivers a game that's an amalgamation of sincere storytelling and well thought out gameplay mechanics that constantly rhyme with each other to create an experience that's simply put, unforgettable.
This is a civilized land now. We didn't kill all them savages only to allow the likes of you to act like human dignity, and basic decency was outmoded or not yet invented. This thing, it's done.
When talking about Red Dead Redemption 2, it's impossible not to mention its lead protagonist, Arthur Morgan. Easily one of the most charismatic and lovable characters amongst Rockstar's portfolio of murderous outlaws and high school bullies. Arthur Morgan's tale of redemption is one that is well worth experiencing through to the end, where, spoiler, he meets his untimely demise. Unsurprisingly, Morgan's death remains an emotional, stirring, and heart-wrenching sequence to this date. One could say that it's more impactful than it has any right to be. So what exactly did Rockstar do to make this character's death carry so much weight? Please note that we will be focusing on the high honor path of the game since that's more fitting for this particular analysis. Any fictional character lives or dies, at least in the audience's eyes, by his actions and a well-defined and compelling character arc. An upright protagonist is easy to sympathize with. But what makes this character particularly interesting is that Arthur Morgan has remained an outlaw for a long time, and he has done deeds that are, by all intents and purposes, incorrect. Furthermore, Arthur isn't remorseful about his past deeds. Instead, he works tirelessly for his idealistic gang leader Dutch to pull off dangerous heists in an effort to find a safe haven for his gang. This is the Arthur that players are introduced to at the start of the game, and judging solely by first impressions, he isn't too far-fetched from the average Rockstar protagonist, and as such, sympathizing and siding with him from the very onset isn't the easiest of options for most players. During the game's first act, Arthur repeatedly exhibits such seemingly toxic personality traits, unwillingly saving Marston from the wrath of the wolves in the mountains and even subtly hinting about cutting Sean McGuire loose when he's captured by the O'Driscolls. However, a silver lining to even the shade of Morgan is his rather progressive views about the role of women in society and his stance against racism of any kind, which does put him on somewhat of a high pedestal when it comes to his moral views about society. While working out a loan retrieval job, Arthur gets inflicted by tuberculosis, which he comes to know about much later in the industrial town of Saint Denis, as he faints away in the middle of the street only to be awoken at the doctor's office with this sad news. When confronted with his imminent death, Arthur starts reflecting on his deeds and the practicality of Dutch's grand plan about the perfect life in Hawaii. He comes to the realization of his wretched past and starts trying to redeem himself in his very own eyes by saving Marston once again from prison when he's abandoned by Dutch, and subsequently charting a path for a peaceful life with his family should things start to turn south. Such character revelations aren't exactly a new thing. Many movies and games utilize this narrative's mechanic to create compelling stories, but what separates Rockstar's usage of this mechanic is a certain element of gradualness in its exposition of Arthur Morgan's true colors.
When the time comes, you help them.
What do you mean?
I mean it. Help them escape. When I... You know, you and me, we're more ghosts than people. But them, they could...
I know.
You see, Arthur doesn't instantly change as a person when he comes to know about his incurable ailment and imminent mortality. Even at his worst, Arthur was always somewhat of a sympathetic character. If we look up his history, he didn't exactly choose the life of an outlaw since his father died at a very early age when he was picked up by Dutch. Furthermore, his life as an outlaw also held huge ramifications for his romantic relationship with Mary Linton, who also has an entire questline throughout the game's many chapters. Arthur wouldn't be allowed to marry Mary Linton due to his life choices that might just not be choices. The game gradually defines Arthur's changing personality, and we, as players, come to know about the man he is. This then ties in neatly with the game's emphasis on exploration. The more time players spend roaming around the game's vast world, the more they get to know about Arthur's true nature through the many character-driven side quests spread throughout the map. The more slowly you progress through the critical path, the more familiar you grow with Arthur, which is a great way of utilizing the open world nature of the game, where people start seeing the good in Arthur, and in a sense, you build memories that collectively form an emotional connection to his character. As you start to reach the game's final act, the Pinkertons start closing in on the Van der Linde gang, and Arthur still tries his best to do good for those he trusts and cares about. We start to see the villainous and egocentric sides of characters like Micah and Dutch respectively. And the growing tension between them comes to a close when the gang hideout gets ambushed by lawmen, and our exhausted Arthur fights till his last breath to buy some time for Marston to flee with his family. During this time, we also get a glimpse of all the good deeds that Arthur's done up until this point, as he hears whispers of people during a cinematic horse ride back to the camp. Arthur then engages in a final fight against Micah on a cliffside, where he is pummeled down ruthlessly just as Dutch comes into view. After expressing his loyalty to him one last time, Dutch and Micah leave the place and leave Arthur to die. We see a final glimpse of Morgan as he sees the sunshine for the last time, and Rockstar pulls out the banger that is D'Angelo's "May I Stand Unshaken" to create a scene that would leave anyone with a heavy heart and teary eyes. Of course, one could argue that the same happens to John Marston at the end of the first game. So why is Arthur's death more tragic? Well, there's no definitive answer to this. I guess what makes Arthur and his death so effective is how he's somewhat of a relatable protagonist. We have all experienced our fair shares of betrayals, heartbreaks, and regrets, and perhaps that's why we can all see a shade of ourselves in this exhausted and charismatic cowboy. I do believe that Red Dead Redemption 2's writing might just be Rockstar's most sincere work to date, and Houser's excellent team of writers brought their A-game to the field when it comes to the script, which ultimately pays off in this scene, and will undoubtedly go down as one of the saddest deaths in all of gaming. Did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.